The Las Vegas Raiders are suddenly giving people a reason to look twice, because this does not feel like a team simply trying to survive another season. They just fought back to beat Houston, and 1 week earlier, Fernando Mendoza gave fans their first real taste of why Las Vegas made him the #1 pick. But here is where the story gets strange. The Raiders are not rushing their future quarterback onto the field. Kirk Cousins is still getting the first-team work. Mendoza is still learning the offense, and Klint Kubiak looks completely comfortable letting that process breathe. For a franchise coming off a painful year, that kind of patience tells you something important. Las Vegas believes this rebuild is bigger than one player. And once you look around the quarterback room, the plan starts to make more sense. Tyler Linderbaum was brought in to give the middle of the offensive line real stability. Ashton Jeanty now has a better chance to control games on the ground. Brock Bowers remains one of the biggest weapons on the roster. On defense, Max Crosby is no longer being asked to carry every dangerous moment by himself. The Raiders changed coaches, changed pieces around the quarterback, added help on defense, and started building something that looks much more connected than what we saw last season. Even some young names fighting for roster spots are beginning to force their way into the conversation. None of this guarantees anything, but it does make the next part much more interesting, because the biggest question in Las Vegas is not whether Fernando Mendoza has talent. Everyone already knows why he went first overall. The real mystery is why a team that invested so much in its new rookie quarterback is choosing not to hand him the job right now. Most teams would put him under center and live with the mistakes. The Raiders are doing the opposite. They are making him earn every step, while Kirk Cousins holds the offense together. And after what we saw against Arizona and then Houston, that decision suddenly looks a lot more important than it did a few weeks ago. The next question is simple. What exactly are the Raiders trying to protect Mendoza from, and how long can they keep him waiting? The Raiders did not draft Fernando Mendoza first overall just to hide him. They drafted him because they believe he can become the face of this team. But Klint Kubiak is refusing to rush the clock. Against Arizona, Mendoza completed 10 of 16 passes for 97 yards and threw a touchdown without an interception. The calm part mattered more than the box score. He handled snaps under center, sold play action, and attacked a tight window to Malik Benson. Then Houston gave him a completely different test. Pressure arrived faster, the reads became harder, and one mistake turned into an interception returned for a touchdown. Mendoza still made useful throws, but the game showed how quickly NFL defenses can punish hesitation. That is exactly why Kirk Cousins matters. He gives the Raiders time. Mendoza can learn from real game pressure without every mistake becoming a crisis, while Cousins keeps working with the first group. So this is not really a race to week 1. It is a test of timing. Las Vegas has to know when Mendoza is ready, not when fans are ready to see him. And the biggest clue may be standing directly in front of him. The biggest money clue in Las Vegas is not attached to a quarterback. It belongs to Tyler Linderbaum, and that tells you where this rebuild is trying to start. The Raiders gave him 3 years and $81 million, with $60 million guaranteed. That is money for a center, but the message is clear. Before this offense can become dangerous, the middle has to become dependable. Linderbaum brings more than a name. He started every game he played across 4 seasons in Baltimore and reached 3 Pro Bowls. Now he joins Trey Zune III, DJ Glaze, and Spencer Burford in a front that has to create cleaner pockets and better running lanes. That matters for Ashton Jeanty, who enters year 2 after carrying a load as a rookie. It also matters for Mike Washington Jr., a rookie whose burst has jumped off the field this preseason. This is where the Raiders can change the feel of a snap. If the line controls the contact, the offense gets choices instead of panic. Play action becomes harder to read, the backs get room, and the quarterback gets time. But Las Vegas spent heavily elsewhere too, and that investment changed the defense. The next change is happening on defense, where Las Vegas is trying to make life easier for Max Crosby without changing what makes him special. Coordinator Rob Leonard has more size, more speed, and more choices around the front. Kwity Paye brings another edge threat, Malcolm Koonce returns, and linebackers Quay Walker and Nakobe Dean give the middle a different feel. The point is simple. Offenses should have fewer easy answers. The secondary changed too. Eris Skokes stayed, Taron Johnson arrived through a trade, and young defensive backs are fighting for roles behind them. Arizona still moved the ball well in the preseason opener, which showed that new pieces do not become a finished defense overnight. That was not a reason to panic. It was a reminder that communication, spacing, and trust have to grow together before week 1 arrives. The most interesting part is that the loudest preseason surprise has not come from the contract or highest draft pick. A smaller edge defender kept showing up around the football, then turned those camp flashes into a sack against Arizona. He was not drafted at all, yet his name is hard to ignore. That is where this defense gets interesting. That player is Cian Sloan, an undrafted rookie from NC State who arrived without the attention that follows a top pick. He is not built like the biggest edge defenders, but his effort keeps forcing coaches to notice him. Against Arizona, Sloan finished with 3 tackles and a sack. More important, he kept earning meaningful practice reps afterward. For an undrafted player, that is how a roster fight changes quickly. The drafted rookie class is deep too. Tre'Dan Stukes brings competition at safety, while Kieron Crawford adds edge depth. Trey Zoon III gives the offensive line flexibility. Jermod McCoy is chasing a role after missing the previous college season with a knee injury. Mike Washington Jr. has flashed bursts from the backfield. Dalton Johnson, Hezekiah Masses, Malik Benson, and Brandon Cleveland add more competition across defense and receiver. None of them needs to become a star tomorrow. The real win would be finding several useful pieces at once. That is how a thin roster starts becoming deeper without forcing one player to fix everything. And to understand why Las Vegas needed this many new answers, you have to go back to what happened 1 year earlier and why it mattered. The reason this rebuild feels aggressive is simple. Las Vegas learned painful lessons in 2025. The Raiders finished 3-14, and the offense never found control. Geno Smith threw for 3,025 yards and 19 touchdowns, but he also finished with 17 interceptions and took 55 sacks. Those numbers were never about one player alone. Protection, timing, injuries, coaching, and consistency all shaped the season. Change followed quickly. Offensive coordinator Chip Kelly was released in November, special teams coordinator Tom McMahon was also let go, and Pete Carroll was relieved of his duties after the season. Then the roster moved too. Jacoby Myers had already been traded to Jacksonville. Geno Smith went to the Jets in March, and Tyree Wilson was later dealt to New Orleans, as Las Vegas gathered more draft value. That context explains why 2026 feels so different. General Manager John Spytek, working closely with Tom Brady, chose a new direction instead of patching the old one. The Raiders turned coaching changes, trades, and draft picks into a reset. Now comes the harder test, because rebuilding inside the AFC West means every improvement gets measured against 3 dangerous rivals. The AFC West is not giving Las Vegas a free opening, but the picture has changed. Denver finished 14-3 last season, the Chargers went 11-6, Kansas City finished 6-11, and the Raiders ended at 3-14. That order matters. The division no longer looks exactly like the version everyone expected a few years ago, but it is still loaded with teams capable of punishing mistakes. Denver remains a problem. Bo Nix leads an offense coached by Sean Payton, and Jalen Waddle gives that attack another explosive option. The Chargers still have Justin Herbert with Jim Harbaugh setting the tone. Kansas City may be coming off a difficult year, but Patrick Mahomes keeps them dangerous every week. Las Vegas is not walking into an easy race. It is walking into a race where the old order has been shaken. That creates opportunity, but only if the Raiders earn it. They do not need August hype to prove they belong. They need clean football when the games count, fewer self-made problems, and young players who keep improving. Which brings everything back to one decision. When should Las Vegas hand the offense to Fernando Mendoza? The question is not whether Fernando Mendoza will play. He will. The question is what the Raiders need to see before his turn arrives. A number 1 pick brings pressure from fans and media, but Clint Kubiak does not have to follow noise. If Kirk Cousins keeps the offense stable, Las Vegas can judge Mendoza by command, decisions, and how he handles trouble, not by how loudly people demand the rookie. That is why the 2 preseason games matter differently. Arizona showed confidence and timing. Houston showed how quickly a defense can turn one late decision into points. Both lessons have value. A young quarterback does not need a perfect path, but he does need coaches willing to separate progress from excitement. The Raiders have the chance to choose the moment instead of being forced into it. So watch what happens after mistakes, not only after touchdowns. Watch who controls protections, who stays calm when the first read disappears, and who earns trust from the huddle. If Mendoza reaches that point soon, the decision could be obvious. If he needs longer, that is fine too. Raiders fans, would you start him early or wait until he takes the job completely?